Start.
मैडम चलो करें ना रेडी आओ चलो रेडी रेडी करें
Ready. Ready.
हाँ रेडी करें इकडे पण क्लॅरिटी येते तिकडे पण येते का
हो हो.
A very good afternoon to one and all present here. I welcome you all to the last day of the FDP sponsored by
last day
last day of FDP. Okay, I would request Dr. AC Hirulkar sir to please welcome the guest with a floral salute.
मला वाटलं की आजच करते
सर या बॅनर जवळ सर
आ जाए.
कैमरामैन की रेडी रहे
It's an honor to introduce the guest for the session, Mr. Parag sir. He's a head data scientist at Tab Square, experienced data scientist with a demonstrated history of working in the information technology and service industry, skilled in statistics, data analytics, R, and Python programming. That's all from my side, sir. I would request you to please start with the fruitful session. Thank you.
So, good evening all. It's almost evening, right? So, today we'll discuss few things about R, right? If time permits, we'll also do some hands-on experience, we'll do some hands-on practice on R language as well. But before I start the session, I would like to understand, how many of you are understanding this R or for the first time? And how many of you have already have some experience on R or they have at least done some hands-on practice on R? So basically, I'm asking you this question because this is going to help me to understand till how much depth we can go and till how from where we can start off the session. Right? So let's have this as an interactive session because since you will be also doing some hands-on practice, right? Let's try to understand first of all that how the R programming is all about, how the R programming works. Then let's try to install the R packages, R programming language. I think on all the systems, internet is there. Please make sure that internet is available on your system. If not, you can change your system. You can change. You can go to any other system, right? Because we are going to require this R, we need to install some R IDE and R programming software, right? So before we start on R, right? Why do you think? So I think everyone have heard about this R programming language prior to this, right? And everyone have heard about the Python as well, right? Right? So what's the difference between Python and R, and why R becomes so important tool, right, to understand? So why one should learn about R when they can do all the things in Python as well? How R is different from Python? Any guesses? Any idea? Everyone has heard about R, Python, right? Perfect. So fine. So let me tell you what is R about. So R is basically a statistical tool. R is basically a statistical tool when you can do most of your data analysis. Whenever you want to work on specifically on some sort of data analysis tool, only if you are stuck up with the data analysis, you want to draw certain insights and you want to do some basic regression sort of problem, then you should learn only about R, right? If you want to enter into some advanced stuff where you are building up some algorithms, right? You are tweaking up some algorithms, you want to create some deep neural networks, right? That is all not possible in R. R is specifically a simple statistical tool where you can analyze the data, you can do some tweaking in the data, you can draw some certain insights, you can do some data transformation. Okay. Am I audible to everyone? Pace is good? Yes. Everyone is comfortable in English? Or okay, perfect. Right. So let's try to understand what is R. Right. Let's try to gather some information about R. So why R? So we just understand why R. Uh, I'll share. So there are some references. There are some tutorials available. There are some links that you can learn about the R. Right. So I'm giving you at these links at the start. The reason is you can go through that links later on. Right. You can work. You can check it out if you want to do more analysis on the R. Right. If you want to understand R in more detail, you can go through these links. So in the references you find most of the books in tutorials if you want to do some hands-on practice, and there are certain other important links for the data and other perspectives. So let's understand what is R overview interface, right? So I'll move on. Let's right now skip this outline part, right? Another thing, I might be running up through the slides since in the interest of time we need to cover up the sessions, right? So I want to spend more and more time on the hands-on part. So that's why I might run through the slides. Please feel free to stop me at any moment of time and ask me any questions, right? So please feel free to do that, right? So okay, so why R? Basically it's free. It's open source and it's free, right? And we love whatever is open source, right? Okay, fine. So it's very light language. Why it is light? Basically, the programming done in R is used using C++, object-oriented programming, and R itself. So if you can find there are a lot of libraries and lot of packages which are used, which are designed using R programming language, which is not the in case of Python. There are very few which is written in Python itself, but there are any other object-oriented languages which is used in case of Python, right? And as a result, we don't have to do lot of heavy computing in case of R. That's why the language is also very light, right? Okay, and obviously it's not when I'm saying that it's light language, it doesn't mean that you cannot draw certain graphical images, you cannot draw some graphics. So you can that capabilities is already available with R, right? Okay, I'll skip this part. Okay, fine. First of all, let's go and download R. First of all, so you can go to Google, basically CRL, right? And you can find R, right? So there are two things. First of all, so whenever you are starting the download, first of all, what you are downloading, whether you are downloading R or you are downloading R Studio. Let's understand this first of all. Hello. Please listen to this. Okay. First, there are two things. You will able to find two things online. First is R. Another one is R Studio. Right? What you need to download is both. Let's try to understand first of all what's the difference between R and R Studio. R is a programming language, right? And R programming language is also having its interface, right? But it is not very intuitive. It's not very user friendly to use, right? So we use its IDE, right? And R Studio is IDE which is built on top of R programming language, right? So first of all, download R, install R. It will take a couple of minutes, and then download R Studio, and then there will be a screen something like this, which will come up on your page. So basically, this is the console what we are looking for, right? This is R Studio. Okay. So now you can go ahead and download. Please. Both. First download R and then download R Studio, and we'll be working on R. But R Studio to run, you need R programming language to be installed.
मॅडम आपल्या मशीनवर आहे
Then you might be finding two icons. One is R, another one is R Studio. We need to open R Studio. Okay. So this R programming language was basically written by Ross Gupta and Robert Gentleman, right? And that's why the name was given as R, right? I'll again skip this part. So basically, you will find such type of command prompt. This is the command prompt you might be on the page, right? On the console, you can find such type of command. So you can write all the commands over there. So let's try to first of all understand. Let's try to write few commands onto that, and then we're going to try some complex things if time permits, right? And let's try to understand what are the different data types and all this. So basically, R is a scripting language. So what's the difference in the scripting language and other languages such as object-oriented language or any structured language, right? How scripting language is different?
In a scripting language, you can give number of commands at a time.
In fact, we can give in the object-oriented programming language as well. How scripting language is different in terms of structure? So let me give you some hint. I think most of you are already aware of MATLAB. MATLAB is which type of language? In MATLAB, you might be using certain programming language, right? In MATLAB, what is the programming language? It's again a scripting language. It's again a scripting language. The beauty of scripting language is the language itself is very smart enough to understand certain things. For example, in C, if I am writing out A is equal to 10, right? Then C won't understand until unless you are not defining its specific data type. What does A belongs to, right? A so C is or a C++ in fact in that sense. So why I'm taking the reference of C and C++? Basically, most of us have learned C and C++, and that's pretty much clear in our mind. So I'll take that reference most of the time. So we are pretty much clear that until and unless you are not defining certain data type, it will not going to understand whether it's an integer or whether it's a float. So let's consider in a C programming language, if I'm writing integer A is equal to, so defining integer A, ABC, I'm defining three integers ABC, where A is equal to 2, B is equal to suppose 7, and C is equal to A divided by 2. So what will be the answer in case of C? Did you got the programming aspect? First line I have written integer ABC, right? So what I have defined, I have defined three integers. I have defined the value of A is equal to 2, B is equal to 7, and in the next line I am writing C is equal to B divided by A. So what will be the answer in C? Whether it will be 3.5 or whether it will be 3. So since we have defined it as a 3, it will save it as only 3, not 3.5, because we have defined it as an integer. So this programming language is not smart enough to understand what is the new data type it should belong to. But whereas in case of any scripting language, the programming language itself is very smart enough that it understands, okay fine, when you are in case of MATLAB, we just write A is equal to 2, B is equal to 7 and C is equal to 7 by 2, automatically C will give the answer is 3.5, where we have not defined any data type. But the language itself is very smart enough to understand all these parts, right? Similarly, R is a scripting language, okay? So we are already dealing with the smart language. So language itself has some sense to understand what you are trying to do, okay? But it is not as advanced as Python or a Python IDE. What is currently being written, right? Okay. So probably everyone might be on this console, right? Like this console. And now while you go through different slides, you can try out few of the things on your console, and you can try entering that things, right? Okay. So how the language language is all about. In this language, why this language is very easy, why it is being used by most of the statisticians. So basically from the mathematical background, most of the CAs or most of the data analytics, the reason is most of the things is function based. Most of the things here are function based. You do not need to write any code into this. It doesn't mean that you cannot write it. You can build your own functions as well, right? You can build up your own functions. You can create your own libraries, and you can from that libraries or we can call it as packages. You can create that certain packages. From that certain packages, you can call that libraries and certain functions out of it, and you can start using that functions, right? But here, for most of the things, there are built-in functions, and whatever you will be doing right now, right? You need to use existing built-in functions, right? In case, but again, I'm repeating myself. It doesn't mean that you cannot create your own functions. You can also create your own functions, but there are already packages and libraries, most of which is already available, right? Okay, so there are certain packages, around 12, 13 packages. Whenever you are installing R, right, there are around 12, 13 basic packages which gets pre-installed in your system, right? But there are certain packages which may not be installed on your system, and which you need to explicitly download and then start using it. We are clear on this? Any questions till this point? Perfect. Let's go ahead. Okay. So let's try to understand how we can effectively use these things, right? Okay, fine. In most of the programming language, we might be using this equal to operator, correct? Equal to operator, but here we are using this assignment operator, right? So let's try to use till this point. Let's try to do first hands-on practice on the R program. I'll move to R Studio and let's try to write 4 plus 3 plus 3. The answer is 6. Perfect, right? Now, can you try it out? Try it out quickly. Did you got the answer? Even you can try any numbers, any combinations. Good. Now let's try to assign it to some variable. Let's try to assign it to x. So I'll write x. Here we do not need to use. We cannot use equal to operator. Here we have to use this, and we most of the time call it an assignment operator, right? In some other programming language. But in assignment operator, it is also less than equal to. But it is less than and hyphen. Perfect. And I'll write it as 3 plus 3. And now look at this value. Can you see that value at the on the right hand side? So these are the variables which we have already saved in your programming, right? That is 6. So we have a variable which is currently holding a value of 6. Simple? Pretty simple. Everyone have tried this, right? Perfect. Let's go back. Okay. Fine. Now whenever you are defining any object names, let's try to set some ground rules to this, right? So whenever you are defining any object names, right, it should not contain any strange symbols like explanation, plus, hyphen. That is not allowed, right? You can use dot and you can use underscore, right? Even the name can start with a dot operator, right? Even a name can start with dot operator, right? Again, any object name cannot start with a number. Okay? And again, it's a case sensitive thing. So the small x, capital X are different. They'll be treated as different. Right? So make sure it's a case sensitive language and the variable names what you are defining. I think we have faced this challenge a lot of times. So So can you try these examples quickly? So basically, what is happening in the first case? We are defining an array. So let's take a first case example itself and okay, try it out. It's an or. So basically, it's called as a pipe. But again, when I'm saying it as a pipe here, but in case of our language, there is a other definition of a pipe which comes with percentage symbol, certain value, and a percentage symbol. That is also called as a pipe. So everyone is trying it on the console. I want they are not entered on the script yet. Just try it on the console. You'll start getting the output. Okay. So to create a script, we are just up to the console itself. The line which is written in hash, that's a comment, so forget about that. Forget about that. So basically, is a command, is a basically what is the expected output out of it. Okay, so I think everyone has reached till this point. I'll quickly explain, right? So what happened in the first line? X assigned to we have what we have defined? We have defined an array which is starting from 1 to 10, right? So we created an array which created from 1 to 10, right? Now here what we did, we just did some filtering operations. How we have done it? That we have defined x which is greater than 8 and all the x values less than 5. So probably you might have got this result. Perfect. Now again we are defining this. We have looked at the value of x. Greater than 8 yields to this result. Less than 5 yields to this result. When we are combining this is the end result. And even if you are writing in this form, you will land up into the same result. So this is very. So again, here we have not defined any data type, right? Language has itself understood what is has to be done, what you are trying to do. Okay. Now going to the next point. Okay, now there is a certain thing called as ls, right? ls function. So what does it do basically? So it might be possible that you are writing a huge line of code, right? And then after a certain point you want to know what is happening with a certain variable, right? You want to know what are the list of variables which is available. So what you should write? You should write ls in the form of function. Right? It will going to tell you what are the list of variables you are having currently in your system. ls function. Perfect. Right? So right now you might be, it might be only returning x. Right? Here also now, in case if you are writing lot of variables, usually this happens during the programming. We write it as like uh, x, x new, x recent, and x1, x2. So there we keep on writing such type of combinations, right? Or in case if you are getting the result, we write it on result, result 1, result final, result. So you keep on writing such things, right? So now if you want to understand what is exactly happening, and there are out of so many variables, I only want to know what are the different type of result variables available. So how you can write it out? So for example, if I am having x variable, I am having x2 variable, y2 variable, whatever variables I am. So I can write it as lx pattern, all the pattern where there is an x available. So in this case, it will going to result x and x2, right? So you can try these two line and then you can just try to find the pattern out of it. So basically, why we are going through this part? Because this is a very handy thing to learn in case of R, and this will speed up your programming language and programming skills. Perfect. We'll go to the next part. So now, in case you have certain object or certain variable available, and there is certain value it is holding, right? And you want to assign a new value to that, right? In that case, if you, it's always not necessary. Basically, it's not always necessary. It will going to override that. But what can happen? You don't want that variable to be in a memory. The reason might be that it is having a huge amount of data and it is utilizing certain memory space, and you want to remove it, right? In that case, you can remove rm and you can just pass the variable name and it will get removed from it. So on the console right hand side, you will always be able to find the variable names, right? So while I'm explaining, you can try it out these things there. And now, once you have done this, let's try to plot your first graph on the R. So let's create two arrays. Now, not necessarily you need to create the arrays in this way. You know how to create the arrays, and you can try it out the different methods for creating arrays. So everyone, I hope got your first scatter plot. Is it easy language, right? Right now nothing is difficult, very easy to understand, right? Let's go ahead. Again, always remember R is a case sensitive language. All these words foo are okay. Perfect. So now you can also try certain complex functions as well, mathematical complex functions, such as you can assign certain x to certain sign of some value and divided by something, or you can also try for the log. You can also try certain exponential value, and obviously it also supports matrix calculation, right? Um, so just okay, fine. Let it be. I think you can try the first two lines. You can try the first two lines to get the result. So it supports mathematical functions as well as all the mathematical functions of complex functions. Okay. Right, sorry. Perfect. So whatever objects that are being created, okay, whatever are the objects that are being created right now, it is in the memory. It is in the memory. Now, until and unless you are not specifying that I want to save this object or I want to save this script, it will not going to get saved. By any chance, if by mistake, if you are closing down the R program language, all the memory will get cleared. Right? In case if there is a power cut, it will also get cleared up. You need to specifically mention that I want to save these variables, these objects, right? Okay. Okay. Now, there are certain ways to do it, right? Either you can go to the file menu and the save standard save option, or the second thing is while writing on the console itself, or in case in a programming part as well, right? While you are writing any programming on a script, right? You can use this command save.image, so it will get saved, right? Now, most of the time we face one more challenge. That challenge is we don't know at what directory we are working on, right? So if you want to know on which directory you are working on, right, you can get with the help of command get wd, right? And you can modify that as well in case if you want to save it to the certain directory. Okay. Fine. I'll just. Okay. One more thing I want to clarify this, right? In case if you are writing a certain path name with the help of this, right? You might land up into an error, or you might find that why R is not saving it at the correct location. Basically, what is happening here in this case, if you are writing out this way, in that case, it is considered as an escape character. It is considered as a escape character. So, in case if you are giving the path in this way, prefer this path, or else use the forward slash. Okay. Let's go to the next part. ls. So basically, get wd we have understood. ls we. In case if you want to set a new directory, you can set the new directory as this. So your current working directory will going to save to the this new directory and so on. So let's go to the next part. So basically now this is the help section. I'll skip this part. Okay, one thing in case. Basically, this is not required much. In case if you are having a habit, basically it is not a habit. In case if you are not directly writing the script, right? In case if you are developing from the scratch. So how usually we do it? We do it in a console form. Right? How we do it? Right? We specifically take the values, then we're going to write one line, then we're going to check its output, then we're going to try some other line. Then this is how we're going to slowly develop your code. It's not, we are not that expert, right? At the start, since we are at the beginning stage. So we want to know what is happening after the each and every line. And that's how we're going to develop your entire script. Right? In the one go itself, if you are developing your script, then you are running it out, it will consume lot of time. So how we do it? We use console itself. We load one by one variable. Let's check the output. Let's test it out the output. If this is the desired output, then we go to the next part. This is how we develop it. And in case after writing all these commands, right? In case if you want to save this, right? You can just save it in a history. You can check all the history. Just copy that one, write it in a script, and start using it in the script. Right? That's the easiest and the best way to develop the code from the scratch. Right? To develop the code from the scratch. In case, even if other case is, even if you want to understand what is happening with a certain section of a code, or what other had written the code, if you want to understand that, you can run the script till that point, and later on you can go to the console and start running it one by one. Right? That's the best way to use it. Okay, then again you can save all the history to a certain file, and you can start using that file, right? Perfect. Now, at any given moment of time, right? In case if there are some existing libraries, in case if there is existing packages, existing functions, right? And you want to understand what will get to happen with this function, how I should use that function, how I should use it in my so what are the different variables or different parameters which can be passed in that function, right? And we are not aware of it because it's very difficult to read about each and every packages and to read about each and every function of that package and to remember all the parameters of that function. So in that case, you can simply write this question mark and the name of the function if you want to give the details about it. Or the other way is to write help and this. And in case if you want a general help, you can write help.start and you can try it out as well. And now, okay, now there is a certain thing. Sometimes what happens that we know that there is certain function which is, so for example, specifically it might be happening with an Excel, right? For example, I want to know what is the sum of the product, but I don't know whether it is the command is sum of the product or product of the sum. So we get sometimes confused, right? What's the exact name of a function, right? So in that case, you can write this way, this command to list out all the functions which is having which contains 2 inside that, and you're going to get all the list of it, right? And then you can again understand what is exactly happening with that function. You can get the details about that, and you can start using it. Okay. You can try a foo function, it's fine.
ये करा
we know, we have reached to a point, at least we know how to handle the different variables, how to delete the variables, what are the different operations we can do, how we can use the certain functions inside the R, right? We have not gone in detail. But in case, now, in case if you want to try out certain data, right, then there are certain data which is preloaded in the R and you can use that. And what are the preloaded data in the R if you want to know? And in case if you have already also downloaded certain data from certain libraries, right, such as tidyverse. Tidyverse is one of the packages which is having lot of data sets available inside, right? In that case, you can just write data and you will get all the data. And then inside that data, you can understand a certain data set. Then you can write help a data set name. Then it will going to explain you what are the different columns, what is that data all about, and what does it contain. What are the basically information about all the columns. You can try it out. Is there any data available? Perfect. And now you can write help and data set name. So basically you're going to understand what are the different data sets available and what is the different things available. So basically in case if you want to try it on your hands, you want to try your hands on, right? There is a certain, I think you might be heard about Tidy Tuesday. Have you heard about that? No. Okay, fine. So basically, and it is highly recommended to use Tidy Tuesday in case if you want to try it out. So basically, Tidy Tuesday provides a data cleanup challenge or a data wrangling challenges every week, right? They will put some interesting, interesting data sets on that, and it's a data cleanup challenge basically. The data set is not to you, but it will going to get how a data exploration works, right? How much you can clean up, how much you can make a sense out of it. So you can try it out Tidy Tuesday specifically. In fact, you can search it out. Let me check if I can show you how. So basically, it's a Tidy Tuesday. Let me check if I can show you certain things. Let me check it out. It is called as Tidy Tuesday, and yeah, this is basically Tidy Tuesday. So you can find there are a lot of data sets. So these are the small data sets which is available, and then you're going to get the understanding of what the data sets are. And all these data sets is available through Tidyverse library. So you can start using that. Obviously, you need to refresh your data each time you download it, the library. Okay. So now coming back. Okay, coming back to this. So now, again, in that data, you can go to that help and you can try it over any data set name, which will going to explain you what that data set is all about. Now, whenever you are writing a help section, so in case if you are looking for the R, right, you will find this console, you will find a help section in this part, in this section. You're going to find the variables in this and help section. So whatever help you have asked for a certain data, it will going to tell you in that section. Now you can just go through the data set, what is all the information available about a certain data. So most of the time we face a challenge, right? In case if you are trying out certain experiments, in case if you are trying out, if you want to give a student a simple experiment, right? In case if you want to give them, okay, just try it out a certain packages, right? Or you want to do certain exploration task. Either you can use Tidy Tuesday because it is freshly provided once a week, right? So you can always take a fresh data set, which code is not easily available on the internet, directly not available on the internet. But secondly, in an experiment also you can use the certain data sets. So you don't need to think about creating a certain data sets for the practical users. Okay? And for every student student, you can give a different data sets, right, in the exam center. So not always necessary that you can give a same data sets to each other. So okay, going back. Okay. Okay. So there are certain packages which is available in the R. So you need to install the packages and then you can start using that its library. So skip this part. Right? There are certain packages which is directly available. Almost 30 packages gets pre-installed. Pardon me on the formatting part of this slides, which is haphazardly created at the last moment. Okay. So for example, let's consider if you want to get certain library, you can just write it down library, you can just call it out and you can write it out the variable name and it will to give the details about it, right? In case if you want to know, right, what are the different libraries readily available in my system, whether I have pre-installed that library or not, you just need to write library, that's it, and it will going to give you the list of all the libraries available in your system. Library and it's a function. Specifically, it's a function. So basically, SAS is an important library. SPSS is an important library. SAS and Stata is one of the most important libraries which is widely used. Okay, let's go to the next part. Not available. In case if there is certain packages you want to install, you can install it in this way. But I highly recommend you one more interesting library. Okay, but before going to that interesting library, let's try to understand this. Right? Now, what is happening here? What is happening here? You are assigning mean a certain value of 10. Right? You are assigning mean a certain value of a 10. But mean itself is a function. Mean itself is a function, predefined function. Now, what will happen in this? What usually happens in the other programming language? It throws an error that this is predefined function and you cannot use that. But this will not happen in case of R. It will override. It will override that function with a value of 10. And on top of it, it will not going to throw you an error. It will not throw you an error. So how we would understand that whether we have assigned a certain variables which is a function, how should we understand this, right? So let's try to understand this part. So there is something called as a conflicts, right? Let's go to that part. So if you are writing conflicts, it will going to tell you that this is a problem. You have assigned a mean, a certain value, which is a function, right? So if you are writing conflicts, you will get to understand this. So basically, the way I am covering parts in this these topics in this session, the reason is this is most commonly, these are the most common challenges when you start teaching R in the classes, right? So student will going to come up with a certain problem and you will not understand what exactly is happening. So this is the first thing you should check it out, whether there are any conflicts or not.
Isn't it a disadvantage?
There are certain disadvantages.
Because if I want to hamper somebody else's program, I just check override.
No, how are you going to hamper that program? You cannot hamper that program.
If assigning some value to the function, it's overriding.
So it will go to override, but after once,
Is it getting saved?
until and unless you are not specifically saving it, you will not get it. And there is certain ways to remove it.
When you see if one saves,
Then you can figure it out. If there are any conflicts, if there are any conflicts which is available, you know that this is the conflict available with this variable. You can simply go and remove it. RM, remove it. That's it. And it will assign back to the function. That's it. Okay. Pretty Pretty straightforward, straight, simple, perfect. Okay, now fine. So whatever we have learned up till now, it was everything was on a console. We have not started anything on the script part. Now, if you want to write a set of commands on a script, just on the top right hand side of the corner, you can find a new script option, right? Or you can go to the file and you can search it for a new script, and it will going to give you an editor file where you can write your set of commands and it will start and you can start executing. So you can write a source function which will going to run this script file in case if you want to. Then there is another function called it as a sync function where you can save the output of your script. The sync function file name append in case if you want to append an existing file, right? And the split. Split also. What does that split means? In case whatever output you are getting, you want it on a console as well as on a file, then you should write as split is equal to true and split is equal to false. Okay, I'll just explain this. Now, this is a very interesting thing, right? Up till now, how you are taking the output of your function, right? If a certain file is generating certain images or certain graphs, how you are saving it? You are saving it as an image through GUI, right? But consider after a console you want to save it up. In a script you want to save it up. Whatever output you are getting, and later you want to evaluate it. So there is something called as a DevOps function, right? Where you can save your output in the different formats, right? PDF format, Windows meta file, PNG, JPEG, whatever format you want, you can use it. And how you can use this DevOps function? Just whatever I want to save it, I can save it at a certain location, I can plot it out and just write dev.off and it will need to save it out, right? Now, okay, any questions till this point? How we are using R, right? Are we good? But so these were the different parameters how we should use R, right? Are we good on this till this point? Perfect. Let's consider the different data types. Input, right? Fine. So R has a very variety of data types, which is called as scalars, vectors, numerical, right? Matrices, data frames, lists. Okay, what is a difference? Before I go ahead, can someone tell me the difference between matrices and matrix, basically, and data frames? How data frame is different than matrix? Everyone might have heard about this. Everyone have heard. How many of you have heard about the data frame for the first time? Data frame for the first time. So it's fine. So, but matrix and data frame, everyone have heard about it, right? So, what's the difference between matrix and data? Okay, I'll give you an example, right? Can matrix can be a data frame? Yes, it can. Right. Can data frame become a matrix? What's the difference? Why? Data frame is also matrix. Okay, let me give you another hint. What's the difference between vectors, or we call it as arrays, and a list? Have you heard about this? What's the difference between that? When to call something as a list, when we can call it as an array. And in fact, if there is no difference, in fact, if you are looking for its data type, it will specifically mention it as an array, and it will want to specifically mention it as a list. What does it mean? So, let me explain this. Array contains the same sort of. If it is an integer array, it will be an integer array. It's a float array, it's a float array. But this is not the case with the list. A list can contain integer, variables, right, strings, right, float, and similar is the case with the data frame as well. Except the data frames of one column should be of a one data type. But there can be a certain different column which might consist of a different data type. But in case of matrix, all the elements is of the same data type. Here, are we on the same page? Perfect. Let's go to the next point. Okay. So this is a numeric vector, this is the character vector, this is a logical vector, right? And in case if you want to access a certain variable of a vector, you can just write a C of 2, 4. It will going to return the second and the fourth position variables, right? Elements of that vector, right? So this is how you can define a matrix. Basically, you can define a matrix. You can pass the vector inside this. Write a matrix name, right? So whatever name you want to assign to matrix, the vector you want to pass it into the matrix. You need to define the number of rows. You need to define the number of columns. Here you need to define whether you need to fill this vector by row or by column. So these are very important. And then the variable name, whether whatever names you want to define to the column, in case if you want to define, right? And this is one of the example. You can try it out quickly by matrix. You can try it out and you will look into it how it looks like. Because most of the time you will be working in the matrix form. Okay, this will going to return the fourth column. This will going so before the after the comma is all about the column. Before the comma is all about row. And if you are specifying both row and column, then it is going to give a certain. Now this is the array what you are passing. So it will going to return all the rows from 2, 3 and 4 and all the columns of 1, 2 and 3. Right? So you can try out these operations quickly on your system for matrix. Okay. Okay. So if you have tried on this matrix part, now you can try it on the data frame part, where you have created three different data sets and three different arrays. One with the integer, another one with the strings, and the third array is the logical array, right? Boolean logical array, what we call it as, and then you can create a data frame out of it. So that's how the data frame and matrix is. Okay. Have done with the. If you're done with the data frame, let's go to the next part. Done it? Okay, perfect. Now, so this is a similar way how we access the matrix, or the different elements of the matrix. You can access it here as well. Now, in case if you want to access multiple columns, again you should pass the data frame name and the list of the column. If you want to give you the column list, and in case if you want a certain column, you need to access a certain column. You have to use this dollar sign and the column name. Okay. Similarly, in the we use in a Python as well, right? We just write dot column name, right? So similarly, here also you can use in a dollar. In case if you want to try, you can quickly try it out. Let's skip this. Let's skip this. So these are certain useful functions which most of the time we require. In case if there is a long list of array, right? If you want to count the number of elements into that. Similarly in a function we use length function. Here also we are having a length function, string, class, names, right? ls we have learned about, rm we have tried about. In case if you want to write a new object, in case if you want to edit the place of a certain object, you can try it out. Okay. Then this was mostly related to the Strata and SPSS, right? In the interest of time, again I'm skipping this, right? Otherwise, we would have gone through SPSS and SAS specifically, because these are two important libraries which is available. Okay, perfect. Now let's come to this one. In case now we have learned everything about data frame. We have learned most of the things about matrices, right? How to handle the matrices, how to do the slicing operation, how to access a certain column, how to modify a certain column, right? In case if you want to modify a certain value, we are aware of it, right? Now, but always it's not necessary that we're going to use the same, we're not going to create the data on ourselves, right? We're going to import the data. And how we can import the data? Then there is a library, right? Read library basic. So basically this is the default one, but there is an Excel one, read Excel, right? You need to import that library, you can start using that library. So you can try it out this my data, read a table, and then you can try it out importing any of the data set from the data set readily available, right? And in case if it is in a Excel form, so there is one function called as RODBC, right? I can use this library, or there is a new library which is also called as read Excel. You can use that read Excel as well. Excel in the sense X and L. It's not complete EXCL, right? Okay, and again you can save it out. Then there is a foreign library. This is specifically for SAS and SPSS, Excel, Strata. Okay, I'll skip this. Okay. In case if you want to write it in a CSV form, right? We most of the time save our data frame in the CSV form, right? You can use this table, this command to save it in the CSV form. Write dot table, right? Separator, if you want a comma separated one, instead of separator hash tab one, you can use a comma one, right? In case if you want to save it in XLS form, or this is specifically a SAS package. Again, we have not gone through this SAS package. Okay, we have gone through this. This is for reading the data. Again, in case if you want to, so whatever data frame we are reading up, right? Most of the time we look for what is the maximum. We want to look at for the top 10 rows or the bottom 10 rows. So you can use the head command and the tail command to read it out. So here you can define the number of rows you want to look for, and you define 5 or 10, right? Then value labels, I'll skip this. Okay. Now, I think NaN values are the most painful element to deal with, right? For example, if you are having a certain array, right, and it contains a NaN value, and if you are trying to find out its mean, right, in that case, it will going to return you a NaN value because it contains a NaN value and it doesn't understand how much the range of that value belongs to, whether it is too high or too low. So in that case, how we do it? Either we remove the NaN values or we calculate the value excluding the NaN values, right? So these NaN values has to be treated separately. Now, in case if you want to know how to come to know that whether a certain column contains a NaN value or not. So this is the usual practice where we find out is NA whether a certain column or a certain variable contains an NA value or not, and if yes, then at what which location. And then again there is certain filtering options which, where you can apply a removing NA and then you can calculate the values. So you can start using that. Okay. So you can try this out. If there is certain list which is having a NA value inside that, it will have to return an NA value. Else, so how you can do it instead of doing it in this way, you need to calculate the mean value by removing the NA value. So when you are writing NA dot remove equal to true, it will going to remove the NA value and then it will going to calculate. In case if you are writing mean x comma NA dot rm equal to false, it means it will going to return the mean value, but it will not going to remove the NA value. So these are the two different things. You can try this out. Okay. So okay, again skip this, skip this, skip this. Okay, this is how I think this is the data type and values. Okay, fine. I'll just go through this data types and then we'll go to the packages. How you can learn the R in an interactive way. Yes. That's what you're looking for. Perfect. Okay. Now these are the date values. Obviously, date columns has to be treated separately because once you pass these values to some data weaving tools, right? Date columns are handled separately. So make sure whenever you are dealing with the data column, date column, it is of a data date type, right? Again, there is certain thing, right? System dot date will going to return the system today's date, right? Date will to return current date and time. What is the current date and time? Why do we usually require this function? Usually, this function is required. For example, right? You are writing a certain piece of code, right? And you are finding out that piece of code, right? This code, this script is taking lot of time to run. This script is taking lot of time to run. Then, what is the next step? You want to understand what is the next action. Then I want to understand which section of the code is taking the highest amount of time. Right? So how you are going to do it? You are going to keep on printing the date, or you can assign this date to a certain variable, right? And after a certain piece of code, you can again assign it to some next variable. After a certain piece of code, you can assign to the third variable, and then you can find the difference between the two variables to get the exact time difference between the two variables. And then you can figure it out which section of the code is taking highest time to run, and then you can focus on that certain piece of code, and then you can optimize it. Am I clear? Right? So that's why this date becomes very important. So again, these are the different way how you want to show it. There are different way. If you want to get the number mod E, mod A, mod M, right? This is how you can use it. And then, so how you can use it? You can use it to format your date time and then print it out. That's it. So I'll stop my session here, right? Now, there is a certain thing which I want to explain, right? So which is not pre-installed on your system, right? So can everyone write down? Go to your console first of all. Go to your console. Go to your console. Write down. Write down install dot packages. Write down install, or I'll write it on my screen. Everyone should write install dot packages. So again, whenever you are writing anything, it will going to prompt you with the lot of the options. So it's a good habit if you are using tab, you are not committing any spelling mistakes. Your speed increases, right? And write down swirl inside this. I don't know whether you have heard about it or not. Swirl. Are you aware of this language? Swirl? SWIRL. Swirl. So I'll not going to write it out. I'll not going to run it because it's already pre-installed in my system. That's why I'm not going to install it, but we need to install it. Just install it. Oh shit. Everyone getting the same error? How many of you are getting the error? Okay, it is not available for this version of R. Probably you have not downloaded probably it was pre-installed on your system. Probably it was not downloaded the desktop version of it. So please make sure you can download in a desktop version of it, right? And now let me show you some interesting thing what R is provided. In case if you want to learn R on your own, right? If you want to learn a certain thing of R, right? Because I have explained you on the overall part, right? It's very difficult to cover the entire programming language in a certain time, right? So what I have done it how you should use the R. Now, in case if you want to enter into the detailed part and if you want to understand each and every aspect of R, let's try to understand this, right? So, once you do this, I'll just quickly remove it. You just need to write install.packages swirl, right? You need to write library swirl, right? And now, you can write down, next step is, you can write down this, swirl. Swirl, right? And now press enter. What it is saying. So basically, what is a swirl? Swirl is a interactive tool, interactive library, right? It is designed by someone, right? I forgot the name. I'm not able to recall at this moment. But swirl is an interactive packages which is specifically designed to teach you R in an interactive way, right? let's call it, so what should I call you? I should call you as Parag, or let's call it as test, right? And now it will going to start explaining you how you should run it. Thanks for the test, thanks test, how you should read it, when to do what, right? Just do the enter part, and then it is saying whenever you see this, you need to answer, right? Out of one of the options which is being selected. So I'll just write out, let's go, proceed, right? And now it is telling you how you should start using it, right? I'll quickly give you a quick demo out of it so that you can start using this swirl programming, right? So next is, if you are writing a skip, it will going to skip the current question. If you are writing play, then play. When I'm writing any play function, it means swirl has explained you certain things, but you want to try it out a few things out of it. For example, currently we have learned about mean, how to find the mean of a certain array, right? But you have tried only with the integer, you also wanted to try with the float numbers. But that's not a question which is being asked by the swirl, and you want to experiment on your own. In that case, you can write down play and you can start going. In case if you're learning certain questions, right, and if you don't want to go ahead with that, right, if you want to move to the next chapter, right, you can write the main and you can go to the next chapter at any moment of time. And the best part is, till whatever point you have done experimenting, right, it will going to save your progress in that point. And next time when you resume, it will going to start resume from the same point. Okay. So, what you want to learn, right? Let's try to learn certain R programming, right? I'll just go with the R programming part. In this R programming, what you want to learn? Whether you want to learn about the basic building blocks, whether you want to learn about the workspaces, right? Whether you want to learn about the sequence of the numbers, missing values, matrices and data frames. So this is what we have covered in today's session. We have covered the this part, missing values. We have covered about the vectors. We have covered subsetting of the vectors. We have covered about matrices and data frames. We have covered about functions. We apply, we have not covered it. Basically, it is for the broadcasting part. Right? Whenever you want to broadcast a certain function on all the rows or all the columns at the same time, in that case we can use we apply, t apply. Please try doing this because it is for the parallel execution. It is very important. Simulation, graphics, how to use date and times. We have just get a taste of it, but we have not used it. Right? LApply and SApply is also one of the important things. So let's understand if you want to go through the basic building blocks. Right? Let's understand this. Let's go over there. And now we will going to explore some of the basic building blocks. I'll just go here, right? Help.start. So R is a very simplest interactive calculator. You can write it down. You can try writing 5 plus 7, and it is giving you an answer of it. Now this shows till how much point this chapter is completed, right? And you can keep on interacting this. So R prints the value of 12, and then you can keep on going into the next part, right? This is the value, right? Now you can assign it to x variable 5 plus 7, right? So you can, this is an interactive tool where you can use this R programming and you can start learning this, right? So you can go through any chapter at any moment. In fact, you can go to the main at any. Again, I am going back to the main part. Again, I am going to the R programming, right? Okay. Hold on. Let me go to the main and let me try something else, and then again I can go back and I can learn, start learning from here. Right? If I'm again going back in the basic building block, it will going to start from the same point where I left that session. So I can start it from first, and then it will going to keep on doing from that part. Okay, I'll just again go to the main part, and that's it. So there are a lot of repositories which is also available. You can import that repository and then you can start learning. So I'm not going to cover a lot of things in this because we are already running on a lot of time. So yeah. So that's all in the today's session. Right? Thank you. Any questions? Sorry. Any questions before I close this session? Any questions? Any certain things you want to cover which I might have skipped and you were expecting from this session? Anything? I'll take silence as no. So thank you. स्क्रिप्ट में बता बीच में आई जब आप स्क्रिप्ट में कोड लिखते हो वो भी कंसोल में प्रिंट होती है क्या समझ मतलब मैं क्वेश्चन नहीं मतलब कंसोल में लिखते हैं सेम ही चीज लेकिन स्क्रिप्ट में लिखते हैं तो आपको एक लिखो फोल्डर प्ले करो लिखो प्ले करो यहाँ पे ये पे करके ये करो हाँ और यहाँ पे जैसे अभी थोड़ा इंटरसेप्ट कर रहा है फिर आपने पूरा लिख लिया कि ये चाहिए मुझे एक साथ स्क्रिप्ट में लिखेगा ऊपर वो जो लाइन नहीं चाहिए उसको हटाना वो इजी कंसोल इजी रहता है मतलब मेरे लिए तो मैं प्रिफर करता हूँ अगर मैं स्लैश से लिखता हूँ अब मुझे पता है कि सर्टन सेटअप जो है मैं अगर एक्सपर्ट बन गया